the correct. So this is the question we had reached yesterday. You were given two shapes, and one shape is a rotation of the other shape. Now, how one is labeled A and one is labeled B. So that means, well, A is the first object, and of course, we're trying to rotate it in order to reach point B. But the problem is we don't know where the center of rotation is. Now, in this type of question, to get the center of rotation, you're going to need two things. You're definitely going to need a ruler in the exam, and you're going to need a compass. Okay? So you're definitely going to need those two things. How much of you all went through the videos that had asked you to go through with construction of angles? And somewhere in that video, I showed you how to bisect a line. So give me an idea on the chat here. How much of you all went through the video and you already know how to bisect a line? Because my assumption today is that you did the homework and you can already bisect a line. Okay? So in order to do this question, what we're going to have to do is join two common points, well, two similar points, and bisect the line. In case there's a quick refresh on how to bisect a line, let's say you have a line AB, and well, you want to, cut that in half. In other words, bisect it. What you would do is take your compass and put it at point A and extend it a little more than half of the line, and you scribe an arc. Then you go to point B, and without changing the dimensions of the compass, go to point B, and from point B, scribe another arc. Now, the two arcs are obviously going to intersect each other. If you were to take your ruler and go through those two intersection points, this line here, the one where I place the arrows, that line will bisect the red line in exactly two equal pieces. So to find the center of rotation, we're going to have to apply that procedure twice. So we look at the blue shape and the orange shape. We're going to connect two similar points. Now, let's be quick about this. Two similar points. Everyone agrees that these 2 points are two similar points where I drew the blue line. That 0.5 minus 7, obviously when it rotated, it obviously became 8, 8. I think we can all agree with that. So what we will do, take our ruler, draw those, connect those 2 points. Then take our compass and bisect that line. So I'm going to put my compass at the beginning of the line. And what we're going to do is cut it in half. And do the same thing from the other end. And then, well, obviously I'm not doing it exact here, right? But that long pink line, I'm going to put an arrow. That is your bisecting line. That bisects the original line. Now we have to connect 2 other similar points. I'm going to connect which 2 points? I believe these 2 points could be considered very, very similar, because this point became this point when it was rotated. And what you're going to have to do is bisect that line also. So we're going to bisect that line, right? And when we bisect that line, right? Sorry about that. I'm not doing it very accurate here, right? Because obviously I don't have a compass, right? If we were to bisect this line, it might look something like that. And then we would go through here. And what would happen? The 2 bisecting lines will come together at one point. That point would be the center of rotation. Now, like I said, I did not do this question perfectly because it's a screen and obviously I can't put a compass on the screen. But if you were to do this question properly, you see where this point is? I'm going to circle it many times. that point would actually be over here if we did it properly. Way off from what I had sketched over there, right? And that point would be, look at what are the coordinates of that point? -1, 2. So -1, 2 would be the center of rotation. Okay. Right, and the good news is, I think after class, I have a video showing where I actually did this for a question very similar to this, where I have two objects and I'm actually trying to find the center of rotation. And you will see me making the compass drawings very, very, very neatly. So after class, if I remember, I will try to guide you to that video. So let's move on to the next question, right? Anybody got that correct? The -1, 2 when they submitted the exam? Right, so while you send that, question 4. Now, question 4 gave a lot of problems based on the answers submitted. Here we have two lines, and apparently these two lines are perpendicular to each other. That means they are at right angles to each other. What we want to do, we want to find the equation of which line? The blue line. We want to find the equation of PQ. And the examiner was so nice to give us the equation of the red line. We know all straight lines have a general format. Y equals to mx plus c. Straight lines tend to have things like a gradient and a y-intercept. Let me write the equation of the red line for you. We were given that. So the equation of the red line was -2x minus 3y minus 10 is equal to 0. I tried to trick you in this question. Remember the aim, the general format of a straight line, y is equal to mx plus c. And you would hear not only me, but your teacher saying, whoever is touching x is your gradient. Whoever does not have an x is your y-intercept. So what students will do now, right? And this is a trick. They will go to the equation of the straight line and they will look for x. And then they will ask, who is touching x? And in my particular question, -2 is touching x. So students might say the gradient is -2. And who doesn't have any letters attached to him? The -10. So you might jump to the conclusion that the y-intercept is -10. And when you do that, I got you, right? You fell for the trick. You see, before you could identify M and C, you always have to do what? Make Y the subject. Only after making Y the subject, then you could identify the gradient and the y-intercept. So quick question. In my equation, is Y the subject? Is Y alone on one side and everyone else on the other side? And the answer is no. All right. So what you have to do now is work on making Y the subject. So let's quickly do that. To make Y the subject, we have to throw across the -10 and the -2x. Let's get the two of them on that side first. So we have -2x becomes +2x, -10 becomes +10. Then we have to divide everyone there by -3. We divide him by -3 and him by -3. I'm just going to leave it in fraction form, right? To make it easier. So +2 divided by -3 is -2/3. I'm just going to put the x here. +10 divided by -3 is -10 on 3, or you can put 3 on 1/3. So what is the gradient of the red line? Anybody can tell me what the gradient of the red line is? Because we just succeeded in making Y the subject. What is the gradient of that red line? Rohan, correct. No, Sanchez, what's the gradient? Listen to the question. What is the gradient of the red line? Right, the gradient would be minus 2/3. Who is touching x here? Remember, who is touching x is the gradient. So for the red line, the gradient is minus 2/3. But they're not asking for the equation or the gradient of the red line. We want the equation of the blue line. Remember, when two lines are at right angles, to find the gradient of a line that's right angles to another line, all you have to do is take the gradient, flip it, and change the signs. There's a fancy term for that. They call it the negative reciprocal. But that just basically means flip and change the sign. So if we have 2 on 3, we will get 3 on 2, and the negative will change to positive. We all know 3 on 2 is 1.5 or 1.5. Obviously, any one here is correct. But we're still not finished, because for the blue line, we have to find the equation. Y is equal to mx plus c. We just learned that the gradient of the blue line is 3 on 2, or better known as 1.5, positive 1.5. We still need to find c. To find c, we need a point on the blue line, because we're trying to find the equation of the blue line. Once again, I find the examiner was being very nice to us. He gave us a point on the line. According to that point, x is minus 3 and y is minus 4. So what I want you all to do to complete this question, replace the y with minus 4, replace the x with minus 3, and do your best to solve for c, because that's the missing part of the equation of the straight line. We have m, but we still need to find c. Quickly find c and send the answer on the chat. So let's work it out. So, well, when you multiply 1.5 by minus 3, you can double check it on your calculator, but 1.5 by minus 3 is minus 4.5. We're trying to solve for c. Throw across minus 4.5 and you're going to get positive 4.5. If it double check it on the calculator, right? I see some of you all got something quite different for this pink value over here. Minus 4 plus 4.5 is positive 0.5 or a half. Now, I have to write my answer in a certain way for the examiner, right? I can't leave the answer for M up here and the answer for C down here. My final answer has to be written like this. The equation of that blue line is y is equal to 1.5x plus 0.5. That's the final answer. Right? Make sure. Right. So now in the next question, they want to know where the two lines intersect. In other words, they want the value of this point here. They want the x and y coordinate over here. Remember, we just found the equation of the blue line. Let me write it back. Y is equal to 1.5x plus 0.5. Anytime in maths, they are asking where two lines meet. It could be straight lines, it could be curves. Once they're asking where two graphs meet, it's really a simultaneous equation in disguise. So what you all need to do is solve these two equations simultaneously. This is your equation 1, and this is your equation 2. Everyone take a shot at it again. I will be using the substitution method to solve this. Obviously, you are invited to use any method you wish. But take my advice. For this particular pair of simultaneous equations, substitution will be your easiest method. And the reason I am saying that is because for equation 1, you all notice y is already the subject. So you could just substitute it in straight into equation 2. You could throw away that y and in brackets put what? 1.5x plus 0.5. Good luck. Waiting on your answers on the chat. I don't think the answers will be too nice for this one. I mean, let's help out a little bit, right? So remember how we said in equation 1, y is already the subject. So we're just going to substitute it straight into equation 2. So equation 2 is minus 2x minus 3. But what do we have after the letter y? So when we throw away something in maths and replace it with something else, it has to go in brackets. So I think some of you may have forgotten the brackets. Minus 10 is equal to 0. Oh, I think I know what the problem is. Look at the small trap that a few of you all fell for. So you had minus 2x, but then you had to multiply every one inside here, not by 3, but by minus 3. Minus 3 by 1.5x is minus 4.5x. But remember, this 0.5, which is positive, also gets multiplied by the minus 3. So you get minus 1.5. I suspect a few of you all had positive 1.5 here. Let me know in the chat if that was the mistake. And the minus 10, and you put the equal to 0. So now we just take our time, get all the x's on one side, everyone else on the other side. Minus 2x minus 4.5x is minus 6.5x. And if you throw across minus 1.5 and minus 10, you'll get 1.5 plus 10, which is 11.5. Here's a multiply, throw them across, you get a divide. So x is how much here? I think we're going to get a negative value for x. 11.5 divided by 6.5 negative. To 2 decimal places, it's minus 1.77. Okay? Try to at least go to 2 decimal places in the exam. To get the value of y, we could just run to equation 1, because in equation 1, who's already the subject? Y. So I'm going to write back equation 1 down here. And what can we do? Throw away that x, let's erase him, and replace him with the answer we just got, minus 1.77. So all you have to do is take 1.5, multiply it by negative 1.77, whatever you get, add it to 0.5. And verify it on your end, right? Plus 0.5. And I'm getting roughly minus 2.16 or something like that, or something close to that. Now, I know everybody's going to round off slightly different, right? But if you rounded this part off properly, then your answer will look exactly like mine. Let's double checking something. 11.5. Right. Right. So on the answers, I think I had minus 2.15, but you actually just choose the closest one, right? Because I believe when I was working on the solutions for the online, I think I went to 3 decimal places, right? But obviously you choose the closest answer, right? All right. So this question is pretty easy. It's just functions. Well, part 1 at least. In functions, which we did sometime in September, somewhere around there, f minus 3 just means we're going to this equation, the fx equation, and any x you see, you replace it with whatever's in the brackets. Today, in the brackets, we have minus 3. So throw away this x here, put minus 3, minus 5. So we're going to get minus 6, minus 5, minus 11. That was pretty easy. The other one was G inverse. Now, if you look carefully, there's a minus 1 here. So we have to take 4 and put it into G inverse. The problem is we don't have G inverse as yet. We have regular boring GX. So what we need to do is find the inverse of G. And when we find the inverse of G, then replace the X with 4. So let's find the inverse of G. what we have to do first is replace the gx with the letter y, right? Then we have to switch the x and y's. Wherever you see a y, well, it changes to x. And anywhere you see an x, it changes to y. So this y will change to x, and this x will change to y's. And what you need to do after you make that switch, you have to try to make back y the subject. We're going to use cross multiplication for that. Doesn't matter which diagonal you multiply first. I'm just going to go with this diagonal. 2y minus 1 multiplied by 1 is 2y minus 1. And every one here gets multiplied by x. So you get 5x plus xy. We just multiplied both of them by x. All we have to do now is try to get all the y's on one side. So you throw him on this side. This positive one does not have a y, so he goes across on the other side. So we're going to end up with 2y minus xy is equal to 5x plus 1. Remember, the aim is to get back y alone on one side. And you notice both of them on the left-hand side has the letter y. So couldn't we just factorize out y? So you get 2 minus x is equal to 5x plus 1. We're almost there. Between here and here, there's a secret multiply. Throw him across, you get a divide. Look at that. We just succeeded in making who the subject? Y the subject. And once you make back y the subject, you erase Mr. Y and put G inverse X. Great. Now we're not finished. All we did was find the inverse of X. Now we have to replace the X with 4. So you think you all can do that part for me? Go to this equation here and replace both X's with 4. And tell me what you get for your final answer. You're replacing both X's with 4. Right? Work out the top separately, write down the answer. Work out the underneath separately and write down the answer. Okay? 5 by 4 is, I'm getting, I hope I'm doing this correct, 21 on top and minus 2 underneath. I am getting minus 10.5. I don't know if that's correct. Remember, you can't type in this straight on your calculator, and your calculator will mess that up. You have to work out the top separately and write down the answer. Work out the underneath separately, write down the answer. I know you might be tempted to type in the whole thing straight on the calculator to save time, but you will get it wrong. Right, so my final answer is minus 10.5. Right, functions, so hopefully this is finished. All right, so it had a part 3 here. For part 3, they want you to solve for x, given that gx, the regular boring gx, is minus 1/3. So we can write back the equation here that they gave us, the function, sorry. Gx is equal to 2x minus 1, 5 plus x. All they want you to do is take this expression and put it equal to minus 1/3. Now, you can put a minus on top or you can put a minus underneath, right? But it's good practice to put a minus sign on top. So once you equate the whole equation to minus 1/3, you just have to cross multiply now and solve for x. I'll give everyone a chance to try. Cross multiply and solve for x. So I'm going to cross multiply this diagonal first, the one with the 3. So you have 2x minus 1, and that whole thing gets multiplied by 3. The other diagonal is minus 1, and that whole thing gets, the minus 1 gets multiplied by the whole of the 5 plus x. So we're going to get 6x minus 3 here, minus 5 minus x. I think some people made a mistake here. When we're multiplying every one inside here by minus 1, remember, a negative and a positive is a negative, and a negative and a positive is another negative. So you have to be careful. Throw all the x's on one side. Remember to change the signs when you are doing so. You're going to get 7x is equal to minus 2. Therefore, x is definitely minus 2 sevenths. Right, so look for your errors. Make sure you see it before we move on. All right, so this one definitely gave a lot of people problems. This one here is proportionality. Let's go ahead. Given that A is inversely proportional to the square root of B. So let's write that in maths form. They're saying A is inversely, this here is the symbol for proportional, but because it's inversely proportional to the square root of B, when it's inversely proportional, you throw it underneath a 1 and you put the square root of B. What you need to do, you see this symbol here, the proportional symbol, you need to throw it away and replace it with an equal and a K sign. So you'll get A, the proportional sign, throw it away, and you get equal and a K. Well, I'm going to write it like this for the time being, but where do you all think the K belongs? On top or underneath? Do you think it belongs by the 1 or do you think it belongs by the B? Right? It always belongs on top, right? So just to, make it look neater, we know we have to multiply the K by 1, and anything by 1 is itself. So just put a K on top. What we need to do is find the K. K stands for constant. Once we find the value of K, it remains the same for the rest of the question. Hence, it's titled constant. Don't worry, the examiner has to give you a clue on how to find K. And he did. He said when A is 2, B at the same point in time is 25. So let's do that. Let's replace the A with 2 and the letter B with 25. Couldn't we easily solve for K by cross multiplying? The square root of 25 is what? 5. So if we cross multiply, what do you all think we will get for K? Let's save some time here. The answer, no, the answer is not 10. I'm sorry, the answer is 10. Sorry. Somebody sent the final answer, sorry. Remember, the square root of 25 is 5. So 2 by 5 is 10. Right? So once you get the value of K as 10, we can write back the equation like this. A is equal to 10 because we now know K is 10 divided by the square root of B. The question goes on now to ask us to find the value of B when A is 5. So they want us to replace A with 5 and quickly solve for B. Do you all think you all can cross multiply and solve for B very quickly? What would you get? Right, so just for recording purposes, what this here is the working to find B. We cross multiplied, and when we solved for B, we got 4. Look for your mistakes. Let me know what your mistake was, please. Right. Let's find, oh, they want us to find the mean on this one. The mean is a type of average. So the first thing we have to do, well, the formula that you have to use is this. To find the mean, and the symbol for mean is usually X with a little slash on top of it, is sigma fx divided by sigma f. F stands for your frequency, and whatever we are measuring, in this case here, the height of L's, will be your X value. So we have to take our frequency and multiply it by the heights. But the problem is the height is given us a range, 0 to 19. So we don't know how, in this case here, we can't multiply the 3 by both values. Instead, you have to use what? The midpoint. So we have to find the midpoint of each of those ranges. To find the midpoint, we add both values in the range and divide it by 2. Now be very careful. When you're adding 0 and 19, do not type it in straight on your calculator. At least put the top in brackets and then press divide by 2. So that way your calculator will know that you're dividing the whole summation of the top and then dividing it by 2, right? So let's quickly find the midpoints. 0 plus 19 divided by 2. I'm going to get 9.5 here. 20 plus 29 divided by 2. I'm getting 24.5. 30 plus 39 divided by 2. That's 34.5. And the other one would be 44.5 if I'm not mistaken. We're using the midpoints as the X values. So what we're going to do now is take the F value and multiply it by the X value. So we're going to multiply all of these here. For those who didn't do it, you think you could find the FX column for me? I'll do the first one for you. The first one, you're taking 3 and multiplying it by 9.5. We're going to get 28.5. See if you could fill out the rest for me. When we're drawing the histogram, right? How they gave us a range, we're supposed to find the lower class boundary and the upper class boundary. Remember, to find the upper class boundary and lower class boundary, we would have to add a certain number to this side of the range and minus a certain number to the other side. To figure out what that number is, you see these two values, always these two values. You minus them and you always divide by 2, always. So it will be 20 minus 19, and whatever we get, we divide it by 2. So today, the 20 minus the 19 is 1, and when we divide it by 2, we're obviously going to get 0.5. So to all the values on this side, we have to add 0.5. So we get 19.5, 29.5, and you'll get the pattern there. So all the numbers on the other side of the range, we have to minus 0.5. 0 minus 0.5 is negative 0.5. 20 minus 0.5 is 19.5. And you'll get the pattern here. You see the ones where we did the minusing, you call that your lower class boundary. The one where we added, that's called your upper class boundary. So your lower class boundary is negative 0.5, 19.5. In other words, all the pink values. And the upper class boundaries will be the 19.5, 29.5. In other words, the black values. And what you're going to do, you're going to draw little rectangles that start at the lower class boundary and end at the lower class boundary. And the frequency will be the heights. Now you have to be real accurate in the exam. If the examiner says 19.5, he's going to look for 19.5. Huh? Don't say 19.5 is the same thing as 20 and draw it at 20 and expect to get full marks. You will not. You see how we have a negative 0.5? It's okay to put this one at 0. Because remember, the upper class boundary and lower class boundary represents heights. You can't really have a negative height. So tell me if this makes sense. The first rectangle, we got a different color here. The first rectangle is going to start at 0. And how high is it going to be? 3 will be in between 2 and 4. And it will go all the way to 19.5. You see, I didn't put it on 20. I tried my best to approximate it to 19.5. The next rectangle starts at 19.5, where the other one left off, and ends at 29.5. And how high is that one? Only 1. Oops, something went wrong there. I get different color. The next one, put it in green. The other one is 39, goes to 39.5. And how high is it? 5 high. And the last one is 2 high, and it goes to 49.5. How much of y'all got that correct when you did it, well, at home? That you realize that you couldn't go to exactly 20 or 29. You had to, you remember that the 0.5s do make a difference in the exam. Right, now we're not finished. After drawing it, they want us to find the mode. To find the mode, we look for the highest rectangle. And for the highest rectangle, we're going to draw X inside of it. Remember, there will be a shorter block on this side touching it here. And there will be a shorter block on the other side touching it here. You're going to draw X from this side to one corner of the tallest triangle, and then from here to the other side. And if we do that, you notice the X meets somewhere here. Now, I can't remember the answer in the exam, but this looks like, I don't know, around 35.5, somewhere around there. Whatever it drops on is the mode. So the mode looks like 35.5 or somewhere close to 36, okay? So I can't remember the exact choices you had in the exam. So take a minute, take down what you need to, and we will move on. And you notice something in the histogram, right? In a histogram, all the blocks don't have the same width. It's okay to have one block fatter than the rest or one block thinner than the rest. There's no rule in histograms that says all the blocks must have the same width or thickness. There's no rule. Right? So someone said the closest choice in the exam was 36.5. But remember, it's hard for me to get an accurate answer because I don't have a ruler here. And I'm just approximating how these blocks would look. All right, so this question was a cumulative frequency, and we're measuring the age of plants or something. Yes, the age of plants. Probability, when you're calculating probability, probability is, you'll see this formula, NE divided by NS. NE just basically means what you care about, and NS means the total. What do you all remember from the homework? How much plants are there in total in this particular, I guess, is a survey? How many plants are there in all? Take a look at the graph. How many plants? Rohan, correct, right? You all remember, good. It's going to be 50, great. Because if you look at the cumulative frequency, it's basically totaling up all the plants. And if you realize the highest point on the graph, look at here, the highest point is 50. So when we're calculating the probability, the underneath value is going to be 50. Now we're trying to figure out how many plants are more than 55 years old. Now I'm trying to trick you in this question. More than 55 years old. So we go to the x-axis and we look for 55. 55 is here. So we're going to go up, up. Let it hit the graph and then go across. Now we're going to have a hard time going across here, but it's going to land somewhere close to 39. When it hits the y-axis here, I'm going to write it big. It hits at 39. Is that 39 the value we put on top? Is the amount of plants more than 55 years equal to 39? What do you all remember from the homework? The answer is no, right? That 39 is a trick. You see, anytime you read a value off the y-axis in a cumulative frequency, once you read a value off, you would remember me saying that's always less than. It's automatically a less than value. We want a more than. So if it has 50 plants in all and 39 are less than 55 years old, the balance by default would be more than. Won't the balance be 11? Because 39 plus 11 will give you the 50. So the top value is actually what? 11. The probability is 11/50ths. Obviously, you could change it to a decimal, but leave it as a fraction just for today. And I had shown you that trick in the homework, that specific trick. So look out in the exam, in a cumulative frequency, read it properly. Are they talking about more than, or are they talking about less than? Let's move on to the next question. Right. This one here, they want you to find the upper and lower quartiles. To find the upper and lower quartiles, we have to use these formulas to help us. The lower quartile, I'll just call it, the symbol for that is Q1, is n plus 1 divided by 4 with a TH here. N is the amount of plants that we have in total. So we know the amount of plants is what? 50. So it's 50 plus 1 divided by 4. You think you all can calculate this for me? Make sure the 50 plus 1 is in brackets and then divided by 4. But we know 50 plus 1 is 51 in any case. 51 divided by 4 is 12.75. This is not the answer for the lower quartile. We're going to use that to find the lower quartile. So we have to go on the y-axis and look for 12.75. 12, I have to do my best to approximate. 12.75 will be somewhere here. Look at here, 12.75. And what you have to do is go across, let it hit the graph, and see what number it falls down on. On this one, it looks like it falls on 21, 22, 23. Q1 looks like 23. Right? So, well, and is the age of plants we're measuring. So Q1 is 23 years. To find the upper quartile, which we usually call Q3, we say n plus 1 again, but we multiply it by 3 and divide it by 4. Replace the n with 50 again. So you say 50 plus 1, which is 51, multiplied by 3, and then divide it by 4. And whatever we get, we repeat the procedure. We go to the y-axis, find that value, go across, and whatever it falls on is Q3, or your upper quartile. So 51 multiplied by 3 divided by 4, that's not 51 multiplied. I am getting 38.25. But that's not the answer. We're using that to get the answer. 38.25 is somewhere around here. Go across. Looks like it's, I mean, I don't have a ruler, but it's just hit somewhere around here. I think it will fall somewhere very close to 55. I think if I had done it better than this, it would have fallen on 49. So I think Q3 would have been 49 or 49.5, right? And we're finished with that question. How much people got that one correct for well, when they submitted the answers? 23 and 49. Obviously, you would have to choose the closest answer. All right, so one person said they got it correct. Right. How much people were confused by this question? You see, this type of question, it also comes in paper 3, this particular question. So it comes in paper 2, and it's very, very popular in the paper 3s as well. So the reason some people were confused about this one, I want you to imagine a cylinder. So let's say we have a cylinder. If we were to cut a cylinder and open it out, what shape would you get? Use your imagination. Take a cylinder, slice it down, and open it. What shape would you get? No, you won't get a circle. You will get a rectangle. Who said circle? You all see this? And if you take a rectangular sheet of paper and fold it, won't you get a cylinder? Think about it. You can do that experiment right now. Right? So for the person who said circle, you understand, right? A rectangular sheet of paper, if you fold it, you will get a cylinder. Now here's the thing, right? If you were to fold this, who could tell me, like we take this cylinder and we were to fold it, what would be the length of the blue line here? Who could tell me how much centimeters that blue line would be? 520, right? Because we're taking the same 520 and we're just changing the shape of the 520. But that's not going to increase or decrease the length. It's still going to be 520. That 520 centimeters, is that radius, diameter, or circumference? What is that 520 in the cylinder? Radius, diameter, or that's the circumference, right? Now, I know they ask us to find the volume of a cylinder, right? Now, the volume of a cylinder is pi r squared multiplied by the height. Now, the height is going to be 300. That's easy, right? That's just 300. But you all notice we don't have what? The radius. But couldn't we use the circumference to find the radius? Remember this formula? Circumference of a circle is 2 pi r. Couldn't we easily solve for r? Because the 2 and the pi is a multiply. So to calculate the radius, the 2 pi, we throw it across, it becomes what? A divide. We know the circumference. The circumference is 520. Replace the c with 520 and divide it by 2 pi. And you will get your radius. As simple as that. So see if you can get your radius. Go to 2 decimal places. I am getting my radius to be 82.76 centimeters. I use the pi button on my calculator. 82.76. Couldn't you all find the volume for me now? Pi multiplied by 82.76 squared. I run another space here. That's all right. No, I can make it fit. Multiply by 300. That will give us the volume of the cylinder. Remember, you have to square the radius, huh? So your value is going to be quite large. Right. So I'm running out of space, so I'm going to write it on the cylinder, on the rectangle itself. I am getting 6, 4, 5, 5, 2, 3, 5.51 or something like that. But what the answer would be in, remember, everything we did so far was in centimeters. So our answer would be in centimeters cubed. In the question, they ask us for it in meters cubed. Now, you gotta be careful here. How do you convert centimeters to meters? Won't we divide by 100? Because it have 100 centimeters in a meter. But centimeters and centimeters cubed is two completely different things. If I had centimeters squared and I wanted to convert it to meters squared, I would have to divide it by 100 twice. So guess what? If it's centimeters cubed and we want to convert it to meters cubed, we have to divide it by 100, by our next 100, and our next 100. In other words, you have to divide by 1,000,000. And when you do that, you're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to get roughly, let me see, 6.45 meters cubed. That's the answer. Make sure you check through everything. Make sure you actually physically see the answers on your calculator. Do not just copy down what I have. You practice getting the answers as well. Properly. Yes, if I round off properly, I would have gotten 6.46. Right, so here's another question that comes in the paper 3 as well, but it has come in the paper 2s before as well. So this one has no tricks with regards to meter cube or centimeters cube. They want you to get the volume of the, how do you say, the cone. If you were to fold this, you will get a cone, and they want the volume in centimeters cubed. So no tricks there. I don't know if you all know this, but you could try this experiment. If you take a sector and you fold it, you will get a cone looking like this, you know. Believe it or not, you will get a cone. Anybody wants to tell me what will be this distance with the arrow? Let's call this O and let's call this A. What will be the distance from O to A? It's not a trick question. Paper 3 is the paper you write if you did not submit an SBA. So it's the alternative to SBA. Right, OA would be this distance here. Right, so I'll call here O and I'll call here A. It would actually be 13 centimeters. Now here's the thing. You see this distance, this curved distance, that becomes the entire base. That becomes the circumference of the cone. To find the volume of a cone, the examiner will give you the formula to find the volume of a cone. So I'm going to give you it here. The volume of a cone is almost the same thing as a cylinder, pi r squared by vertical height. But you have to divide your answer by 3 afterwards. So here's what. We need to find the radius of the base here because the formula requires the radius. I want you all to take a shot at it again. See if you can find the radius for me, but you have to find this curved distance first of all. How would you find that curved distance? Right? If you had a full circle and you wanted to find the full circumference, right? How would you find circumference? Isn't it 2 pi r? You just saw that formula. That's to get the full circumference of a circle. If you want to find piece of that circumference, a portion of it, right? Obviously, that portion is not the full 360 degrees. It's piece of it. So what you would have to do is multiply it by the angle and divide it by 360. I guess that's not a hint. That's just me telling you what to do. All right. So to find the area of the distance of piece of a circumference, which is a sector, you take the formula for the full circumference multiplied by the angle that they gave you, and you always divide it by 360. So get the curve part for me, right? And the radius of that sector is how much? 13. So it's 2 multiplied by 13 multiplied by 135 divided by 360. I am getting, tell me if I'm right here, 30.63. This curve distance is 30.63 centimeters. How that looking? All right, so make sure you see it on your calculator. So now if I take this sector and I make a cone out of it, this distance underneath, this blue line would be 30.63 centimeters as well, because I'm just taking that same 30.63 and turning it into a full circle. So couldn't we find the radius here now? Because how you find the circumference of a circle? 2 pi r. We have the circumference, which is 30.63. And we want to solve for r now, which is the pink line. And I just showed you all how to do that in the question before. The 2 pi's are multiplied, throw it across, it becomes a divide. So see if you can get the radius of the base of the cone for me. Make sure you take down everything on the screen. I'm going to have to erase a lot of things to continue the question. You're supposed to get 4.87. Double check it. Make sure you're getting 4.87. All right, so I'm going to have to erase a lot of things from the screen now to make everything clearer. What I want to do, I want to draw back this cone properly, you know, right? Let's draw back this cone properly. Right. So we have this cone here. We just got the radius of that cone to be how much? 4.87. We know from O to A is 13 centimeters. Here's the problem now. I want you to find the volume of the cone. So let me do the wrong thing for you all. It's very important that you see the wrong thing. To find the volume of a cone, we're going to use this formula, like I said. So it's pi. The radius is 4.87. I have to square that according to the formula. The height is 13, and then we have to divide it by 3. What did I just do wrong? I did something wrong. What is that wrong thing? All right, Rohan, correct. Diamond, correct. Anybody else on a mistake? No, Denisha. That 13, is that 13 the height? Look at that. Is that 13 when they say height, they mean vertical height. The vertical height is this dashed line that I'm now drawing. That 13 there is not the vertical height. But couldn't we use Pythagoras theorem to find the vertical height? Because technically this is a right angle triangle if you look at it. The 13 is the hypotenuse. So to find the vertical height, which is a regular boring side, it will be 13 squared minus 4.87 squared, and we square root. That will give us the real vertical height. And when I do that, I get the vertical height to be roughly 12.05. Now we could throw it into the formula. The vertical height is, the real vertical height is 12.05. Tell me if you're getting something like this. The final answer for the volume is 299.28 centimeters cubed. Roughly 299. All right, so this question here, I'll be able to do part of it before half it. This here is a pattern, right? This is a specific pattern called an AP, better known as an arithmetic progression. It's real easy to spot an arithmetic progression. If you look at the pattern here, you'll notice that the number is always increasing by a certain number. Anybody can tell me what that number is? 60, 11. After 11 is 16. What is the number always increasing by? 5, right? So anytime you have a number and it's constantly increasing by the same value, in this case 5, it is called an arithmetic progression. The formula for arithmetic progression, right? This is the ADMATS way of doing it, but they didn't specify which way to do it. Tn is equal to A plus n minus 1 multiplied by d. Don't worry, I have an entire video dedicated to this topic. Let me explain how to use this formula. You see how when you had one hexagon, it had 6 sides. When you had 2 hexagons, it had 11 sides, and so on. Let me prove to you that the third one would be 16. If you wanted to find T3, the third term, the letter T stands for term, so you're finding T3. N is whichever term you are trying to find. In this case here, the third hexagon. A is always the first number in the series. What's the first number in the series? 6. 6 plus, how much is n? We pretended n is 3, so it's 3 minus 1. And d is what you call your common difference. D is how much it's constantly increasing by. In this particular question, it's 5. If you work this out, do you think you will get 16? Let's work it out. 3 minus 2 is what? Oh God, sorry. 3 minus 1 is 2. 2 multiplied by 5 is 10. Plus 6. You will get what? 16. So this formula will always allow you to calculate the term, provided that you know A and D. A is always the first number in the sequence, and D, it's how much is constantly increasing by. So do you all think you all can find X for me? X is the 4th term, although you don't need the formula to figure out that because we know it's increasing by 5, right? So without using the formula, how much is X? Well, without using the formula, if it's constantly increasing by 5, it's obviously going to be 21. And Y is going to be easy too, because from 21, the next term is the 5th term. It's going to be 26. But then it jumped all the way from 5 to 25. They don't want the 6th term. I mean, you could do this the long way and keep adding 5, 5, 5, 5 until you reach 25, but you're going to make so much mistakes. How about you just use this formula? Tn is equal to A plus n minus 1 by d. We want to find the 25th term, the 25th hexagon. So we put T25. A is how much? The first amount of sticks, which is 6. We're pretending n is 25, so it's 25 minus 1, and the common difference is 5. Work that out and tell me what we get. And everybody is shouting out the answer already. That's going to be 126. Right. So the next one, they just want us to put a general formula, right? They want us in this formula to replace, they're using n as n, and the amount of sticks, they want us to replace it with the letter S. That's all they want us to do. So in this one, they want us to replace Tn with the letter S. They leave n as n. We know A is how much? 6, and D is how much? 5. And all they want us to do, so I'd already 5 different, so it doesn't look like an S, right? And all they want us to do is get a general formula, right? Right? All they want us to do is write a general formula, a simplified formula relating S and N. And if we simplify this, like multiply every one inside there by 5, we're going to get 5n minus 5. So S is equal 6 minus 5 is 1 plus 5n. And that's the answer over here. We're supposed to put S is equal to 1 plus 5n. So anytime we know n, we could quickly calculate S, which is the amount of sticks. So this is where we're going to be up for. This is where ending today, but I want to, did I give you all this to look at for homework? I can't remember.